Oh, the Supercharged Silverado from the past. How I love to drive it.
Now our Silverado is quick as lightning.
Maybe a little bit too hard. Why? Well, we got a leak. I put this cardboard under it the night before, and we got the location of the leak, but we don't know what the leak is. So today on Tech Garage, I'm going to get this cardboard into Brian. We're going to diagnose the leak, and we're going to fix it. Welcome to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. Well, if you've been around for a couple of seasons, you know that we supercharged our Silverado. Drove it a little bit aggressively, but nevertheless, we developed a leak. Now, in order to track that leak, I actually went down to the art supply store and I got me a project board. This is an inexpensive way to do it, and it's pretty cool because I took my project and I put it under there, and I like to call this oil leak or fluid leak of the Silverado collage, because you can see right here on the back, that's actually where we're leaking some kind of fluid, not sure what it is yet. And when you want to track that fluid, you want to be careful because you know it could be coming from the front of the engine, the back of the engine, you're driving, it's going all the way to the back. This just gives us a general idea of what's going on, and you can see the leak right there. I'll tell you what, Brian, I had this thing sitting at the front of the engine and the back. It looks like somewhere back there by the tail shaft. You got some methods you can check it with and also tell us where's that leak coming from.
Great plan. This is a challenge we've all had, right? You never have a leak the same place in your driveway because you don't park in the same spot every time. So fingerprints all over the driveway don't necessarily make this easy. In John's case, we took a piece of string from that cardboard and went straight up. Now we had to determine, is that the origination of the leak, or is that a fluid running down a frame rail and then dripping, whichever it was. I believe we have located the leak at the back of this tail shaft housing. There's a seal right there. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. We've got the drive shaft off so we can get a good look at this. And with your goggles on, there's a couple tests you want to run. So I'm going to use brake clean. I'm going to wipe this housing down after I spray it on it. Then we're going to use a very expensive tool we have here in Tech Garage. It's called foot powder. And that foot powder is going to actually go right around the ring, and you'll see the moisture begin to wick to it. Now, if it's a big concern or hard access, there's dye for just about any type of leak test you need to do. You could go that route as well. But for now, let's hit it with some brake clean. Now that we've got a good look at this, okay, be sure you use goggles. I'm going to wipe this all down. We get a nice clean housing, and you'll probably see that fluid try to make its way back down to the leak. Ready for the foot powder? All the way up around. Chances are gravity is going to leak out of the bottom, and we'll validate that this, in fact, is our leak. And I can see some red just starting to build up there. It's a slow leak. You could tell that was a small drip. But we're going to go ahead and get this apart. I'm going to get the tail shaft assembly off and get into the bushing and the seal. John's going to tell you why it's a bad idea to replace just the seal. Let me get to work.
Well, it's definitely not a good idea just to replace the seal, and I'll show you why. Now, the temptation is you don't even have to pull the whole tail shafts out. You just take the drive shaft out, get your tool right here, pop this out, take a new seal, put it in, you're done with the job. No extension housing removal. But the problem is inside of the extension housing right here, you can see this is an actual bushing. Now that's where the drive shaft yoke rides. So what's happening here, if I put this inside of here like this and I wiggle it up and down, you can actually hear this one. There's a lot of play in there in between. It's actually clunking. So what's going on, if that's beaten up and down inside of this bushing right here, it's not so much that I'm worried about, it's the seal, because the seal's right here. So if this seal's getting beat up and down as it's going up and down, it's going to go ahead and start wearing it out prematurely. Now you may get 50 miles, you may get 2,000 miles, but why not just pull the extension housing and do it as a pair? It's the best way to do the job. Now a couple of tricks for you. We took the drive shaft out, and because I have it on a table, I went ahead and put some tape around the actual U-joints down there because there's needle joints that can fall all over the floor. Also, when we pull the extension housing, Brian's going to show you there's a seal right here. We need to replace that as well. And then when we went to Rock Auto to actually order the actual bushing right here and the seal, we had a couple of options. It asked if we wanted a booted seal or a regular one. Ours calls for the booted seal, so we're going to replace it with that one. Other than that, it's a pretty cut and dry job. We'll get it done. We just need to check in with Brian and see how he's coming along. I hope he's moving pretty good. I want to drive the supercharged truck.
Okay, all but 2 of the flange mounting bolts are now off, and those are down at the bottom. The next step is to remove the speed sensor, get it out of the way so there's no damage done. Then this transmission mount's got to come out because that's how we get access to those final 2 bolts. So bolt down here in the center, it's off and ready. Now, if you're doing this, a lot of vehicles are going to require you to jack this transmission up off the cross member. That can be tricky. In our case, we've got a piece of wood wider than the transmission pan itself, so we won't damage that with a jack. Again, if you're in the driveway, a floor jack or a bottle jack would work for this. I'm going to raise this up, and you can see the transmission rise up off that cross member. That's going to get me to the point where I can pull that mount out. It's a little bit more. I got the mount down, 1 finger tight bolt right here. Get this guy out and down, and there's our mount. So now we've got access to the bottom 2 flange bolts. There's a really good look at them. Go my side first, out, and then the other side. I'm going to support that flange. It's not going anywhere. And one more point of validation, check out our drip. You can see the powder right there. The drip has re-originated. Just added validation. We're definitely making the right repair. So let me get this housing off and over to John at the bench. Stay with us on Tech Garage, presented by rockauto.com.
Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com, is being brought to you by Woodward Fab, selling quality metalworking equipment since 1966. Evaporust, super safe rust remover. And by RockAuto.com, all the parts your car will ever need.
Welcome back to Tech Garage, presented by rockauto.com. Well, Brian, it took you a while, but you actually got it off the pickup truck. This is the original one off. We're ready to do the seal and the bushing.
Absolutely. Why don't you do the honors? Let me support this down at the bottom.
All right, and I'll take the seal driver here and
There you go. Work it up.
pop it out of there.
Perfect.
All right.
Now, actually, look at that while we can. Look at the cracking, chafing, and brokenness around that seal.
Yeah.
No wonder it was leaking.
Yeah, that's for sure. And that also on the internal here,
Yep.
that's what's actually going to cause it. That's going to stop the dirt from going in there.
Yep.
Now, it's key here with our actual bushing and our bushing driver. This bushing driver has to fit the bushing absolutely perfect, but yet cannot hit the outside of the transmission.
Tricky.
So, yeah, we got a little bit of clearance there, but I think we got it. So we got the right bushing driver. So if you hold that tail
Yep.
house shaft, it's going to take a couple of good shots. I think I can knock it right through there.
It's moving. Nice. One more. There it
There
is,
it
right
goes,
there.
tool and all. Look
Well
at that.
done.
Hey, perfect. All right, so there's the old bushing. We were talking about that earlier. It's actually shifting in there and moving a little bit. That's what's actually causing the seal to leak. So what we want to do now is we want to reinstall the new bushing on there. So if you hold it up there, we'll come in through the top here.
Yep.
Good trick you had, though, was use a bigger driver, right?
There you go, perfect. That seats it right down in there. You don't want to overdrive this. You want to come down so it sits in alignment with that top shelf.
Yep, so if I get that straight and I just start tapping it in there and get it lined up, get it ready to go.
Take your time here. It's all good.
There it goes.
There you go. You'll hear it hit solid when he hits it.
There it goes.
There
Bam.
you go.
Just as
Perfect.
pretty as can
One
be.
more check right here. Tell you what, let me go clean up the surface prep on the back of the tranny. I'll get it ready and we'll reinstall this guy.
Yep, now all I have to do is put the seal on. Now that's pretty easy, and I told you, the temptation is to do that on the truck. Wait till you get it over here on the bench. Now we're going to replace it with the booted seal. You saw the cracks in that one. RockAuto.com sent us this one right here. Absolutely perfect. Actually has a little weep hole so we don't get any moisture in there. Put it on here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this little thing to drive it on there, make sure that I got it straight. I'll tap it and get it started. I don't want to cross it up, and then I could use a flat plate across the top here. And I can just tap it on there. And that got the seal right in there. So what we're looking at now is not just the seal replacement, we actually have the bushing in there as well. Here's your speed sensor located right there, you took care of very earlier. Now I'm just going to take this seal off right here, put the new one on, and it's just a matter of reversing the procedure. I'm going to get this over to Brian so we can wrap up our supercharged pickup truck.
Okay, you can see we've got this surface nice and clean, very shiny, especially this O-ring groove right here where that big O-ring is going to sit. You don't want any debris down in there. It won't seal if there is. So I think we're ready.
Yep, I got it for you, the whole extension housing. You got your outer seal out here, you got your bushing in there, I even put the new seal here, and don't forget your speed sensor goes on the left. I guess I could put it in the parts washer and cleaned it up for you, but you got the gloves on
You
anyway.
just like me to make me work harder.
Absolutely. Hey, make short work of that. I'll go ahead and get the drive shaft and get it set up.
I got it. I'm going to go up on here. I'm going to take special care of that rear seal we just replaced. Nice and gentle going on. I'm going to get it back in place. We get these 2 lower bolts in and secure. Don't forget, we had to take the transmission mount out to get to these. These will be the first to go back in, and then I'll get that transmission remounted and get everything secure. We'll hit these with an impact gun. Always go back and torque these to spec. 1. Okay, 2. That'll hold for now. Now, transmission mount only goes in one way. We get this right here from top. Get a nut up in here. Get a little bit of a reach. Get it started. And again, I'm just going to get that secure. I'll come back and torque everything in a bit. Okay. Okay, that's snug enough. I want to leave it a little bit loose so I can work with it to get these 2 bolts back in right here. Now, we're going to go ahead and lower this back down. Watch it sit down on the cross member. There you go. I'm going to go back up, give myself some flexibility. 2 more bolts to go here to get this in. We're well on our way.
Well, as Brian finishes up over there, I went and pulled the torque specifications because that's absolutely critical, because we're talking about an aluminum housing and aluminum transmission body. Those threads can pull out very, very easily. So when I pulled them, you can actually see here on this actual graphic, it's accumulator to cover case, then you got converter housing. We had to go all the way down to extension housing to case. This is huge. It's 31 to 35 foot-pounds of torque. You go around in a kind of a crisscross pattern and torque them all to that specification. This way, number 1, you won't have any leaks, but number 2, you won't do any damage to the extension housing, or even worse, the transmission case. Brian's finishing up. Let's check in.
All right, crisscross pattern. There's the final one. So we're all torqued to spec. Hey, John, you got that drive shaft handy?
I got it. I've been curling it a couple times. It's steel. It's
Hey,
not one of
good.
those
Perfect. Even ready for a
fiberglass
workout.
ones. Yep. Let me
All
get
right,
the
I'm gonna
tape
be
off here.
Gentle here with the seal. Let me clear this.
All right.
Get that rotated so the splines are good.
There you go.
I'm up and in, gentle. All right, I'm
Perfect.
good here, buddy.
There you go. All right, just a matter of getting it fixed up right here. Man, now all we need to do is get this torque back here to specifications. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna bring in Project M&M, the Mercury Makeover. Stick around, you don't wanna miss that. We'll be right back with more Tech Garage right after this break. Welcome back to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. Well, we're diving into Project M&M, our Mercury Makeover. In the last episode, we actually took an evaluation of the car. It's time to dig into the meat and potatoes, man, the engine and the undercarriage, Tom. The cool thing is, though, I went ahead and scanned for those codes, and you're a lot more than parts. I got this scan tool there.
Yeah, we have specialty tools that make jobs easier and more fun. To take off pulleys, like you said, the scan tool.
Yeah, we'll use them throughout. You know what? When I scanned it, I ended up with a P300. That was a misfire. It's kind of indicative of how that engine was running. And I had a PO442. Remember, you mentioned that gas cap? Very well could be. It's an emissions problem. We'll have to dive in that a little bit later as well. But we're better to start than the engine and the diagnostics of the engine, fluid conditions.
Right, yeah, you can tell a lot just from how the fluid looks and even how it smells. Like transmission fluid, yeah, it looks clear, normal. Doesn't smell burnt. You tell a lot from the oil cap. Is there any white foamy stuff or moisture that indicate the head gasket's leaking? I don't see that. And the radiator condition of the coolant, it doesn't. I don't see any. I don't smell any exhaust that might indicate the head gasket's leaking. I don't see any rust or algae or anything growing.
Yeah, that's a good indicator. I mean, these things are pretty bulletproof. I'm on my side. I got the oil dipstick down here. Always check the oil. Same thing. You want to smell it, make sure it's not burnt. You can look at it if it's all foamy and it looks like it's milk chocolate, maybe got some water in there. This one looks pretty good. Brakes, the same thing. Now, we'll address them. It's a cheap fix. I mean, we got some brake fluid. We'll address it all, but right now it's full, so you can tell we don't have any leaks in there or anything like that. And then I got the power steering right here. So if I pull the power steering fluid off, it's filled up. It looks pretty good. Doesn't mean somebody didn't top it off, but at least we're checking the conditions of it. I mean, belt as well.
Right, yeah, a belt's something with this many 10 years and 50,000 miles. I wouldn't even spend much time inspecting it. It's so inexpensive. Just replace the tensioners. You don't have to worry about it.
Exactly, the tensioner, key word there, and the pulley. We'll probably knock it all out. We'll make sure that's catastrophic failure, man. We have problems if that breaks. Then we went ahead and checked the hoses. Once again, just something with this many years. We're going to go ahead and replace them all, the upper and lower. We'll do that as well. But one thing we can do is we can do a mechanical check of the engine. That's pretty cool, and anybody can do this at home. It's really simple. It's called a compression test, and I just went ahead and pulled the spark plug out. You can see it right here. It's in good condition, but you know it's the old Motorcraft spark plug from the get-go. Take a compression gauge, screw it in there. This is going to tell if that cylinder is building up compression, and this is huge. You can do this on any engine, even a junkyard engine if you have a way to turn it over. It tells you the mechanical integrity of the engine. So I'm going to plug this on. Tom, I'm going to hand it to you, and you can go ahead and hold that. I'm going to turn it over about 4 puffs, and we'll see what kind of compression this thing's making. What you got there?
We got up to around 160.
160, now that's awesome. So we got 160. Now we can check all the cylinders, you know, but it was running pretty good. We got a pretty good platform to start with, that's for sure.
Yeah, I see a few cobwebs, but yeah, otherwise it looks good.
Yeah, cobwebs and a couple of mud daubers, nothing we can't fix up. Plenty of parts, we can get them all at rockauto.com to do this. What we need to do is turn our attention down to actually the chassis and the undercarriage. Now we got Project M&M up in the air, we got the wheels off, and we're ready for an undercarriage inspection. Now, besides this thing being covered in spider webs from sitting so long, it looks pretty good. Here's a few things that you can check right at your house. Now, I'm looking at the actual rotor assembly. I told you earlier it had a brake pulsation. This is pretty cool. If you look right here, it's actually got the factory clips on the rotor. That's so when it goes down the assembly line, they don't fall off as it tilts it to the right or left, so these never even been touched. We'll probably go ahead and replace these. There's rusty, and we had a pedal pulsation. We'll check them in a later episode. Our pads are looking pretty good here. And then you want to look at the actual suspension components. I can come here to my actual tie rod end. I'm pulling up and down on it. Feels pretty good. The boot's not torn. It looks good. The bellow boots in the rack's all secure. We're in good shape there with the steering. I could look at my sway bar links right here. I could pull up and down them as well. I can see my lower radiator hose, and the undercarriage has no major leaks or any problems, so we're in pretty good shape. Last but not least, I want to check that strut and that strut mount up there. But remember, it was bouncing like a baby buggy on that test drive, so we'll go ahead and replace them as well. Now, Tom's in the back checking out his suspension system. Tom, watch out for the spider webs. How are we looking back there?
There's some work to do here, but I don't see any terrible surprises. Like John found up front, that looks like the original brakes with a ridge of rust on the rotor and original pads, so those need to be replaced to make the car stop well and prevent noise. These boots on the shock absorbers tell me these are the original shocks after 50,000 miles and 10 years. Those needs to go. It's rear-wheel drive, so we got a rear differential. After so many years, it might be a good idea to change out that oil, put a new gasket on it. This car came from the factory with different options, and like it could have had air shocks. If it was a Crown Victoria, it might have heavy-duty brakes if it was going to be used for a police car. So what I see, it's in pretty good shape. No big surprises. It's original equipment that needs to be changed out. So let's go to rockauto.com and pick our parts.
Well, Tom, we had Project M&M, the Mercury makeover, up in the air, and we're walking around and we're inspecting some of the parts, but you know, that thing could have been a police package, taxis use it. There's several options that come with the car. Can you help me there?
Yeah, to get an idea of what possibly might have come in the car from the factory, you can use the parts available at rockauto.com to find that out. So we'll go to the 2006 Mercury, we'll go to Grand Marquis, and we were curious about suspension, so we'll go down to suspension, and we'll see, okay, we got air springs, so that's a big option that could have been on that car. It wasn't, but maybe we want air springs, we tow a trailer, or maybe we're concerned about the cost of air springs. Replacing those will add several $100s to the cost. And if we were concerned about that, we could say, hey, maybe there's a kit available to replace the air springs with conventional shocks and springs. So.
Especially on that make and model, a lot of people are doing that. And you get those air springs, they're so costly, we just convert it over to coil springs and have a whole kit.
Yes, shock absorber conversion kit.
There you go.
So yeah, it's available if you want to replace those air springs.
Yep, and still keep that race ride and integrity of the car. Well, there's plenty more. Tech Garage, when we return, we'll go ahead and we'll shop some more. You guys come right back, right after this message.
Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com, is being brought to you by Custom Auto Sound, the originator of classic car OEM fit radios since 1977. Clamp Tight, the clamp making tool. And by RockAuto.com, all the parts your car will ever need.
Welcome back to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. Well, it's time for the video question of the week. Check it out.
Hey, Tech Garage, I was going to leave today and a light came on my dash. I looked it up in the owner's manual and it says it's a low tire pressure reading, but none of the tires seem to be low. What's going on?
Lance, this is a common problem, and you got a common cause of TPMS lights coming on. We'll show you just exactly how that works.
Yeah, you know what, Lance, you got a cool Mustang, but looking at the tires isn't the answer. You know, there's a range these things use, and that range is a really fine range. It could be too much or not enough. Climate changes, when it gets cold, air pressure is going to change. You may have just dropped maybe 5 or 10 degrees and that light popped on. And looking at radial tires, not a good idea, man. They squash down. You really can't even guess how much air pressure's in them anymore. I mean, they could be 90% flat and still look like the sides puffed out. So, you know, this great
You've
system.
got one type of TPMS system or another. So this is a fixed. Now, it's a steel valve stem fixed to the rim. You could have that type of system. Don't worry about whether it's a plastic stem or steel. They still operate the same way. John, you've got a banded one.
Yeah, big misconception. They look at the steel, they think, hey, I got it. Could be rubber now. Now, also, I have a banded one right here that actually goes in the rim. You don't even know you have it in there because you got a regular valve stem. Be careful, you're breaking the tires down. If you're ever in a shop, you could damage that. You know, you can go get one of these Bartech scan tools. We did this in a prior episode. You go there, you shoot it, you wake it up. These things, you said before, they're like a snowflake. It's pretty cool. They all have their individual ID. It could be a sensor problem, but Brian, I'm leaning towards just airing it up.
It's solvable. Spend your money on a good tire pressure gauge. Go around, check all 4, make sure you're good. Check it with on the doorpost. You'll see the exact PSI you're supposed to have. Run that PSI.
Yeah, use the placard, that's for sure. That tire placard is key. Use that when you're putting the air pressure in. Brian, today was awesome. We got our supercharger back in action.
Yeah, I got to make sure we got the right tire pressure in the rear wheels on that vehicle because I'm going to go take it for a pretty nasty test drive. It was a lot of fun. Hey, come see us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We appreciate those video questions of the week. Keep them coming.
Yeah, and you know what? Join us next week. We're out of time for this week for the highly technical but always practical Tech Garage presented by RockAuto.com.
Production assistance for Tech Garage is provided by Chipola College, located in Marianna, Florida. Founded in 1947, Chipola College has a current enrollment of over 2,000 students. Chipola was recently ranked as one of the top 3 community colleges in the United States.